He had already mentioned the legendary Motherland of Man, the mysterious land of Mu. Now he amazed me by the admission that the precious tablets were believed by many to have been written by the Nakals, either in Burma or in the vanished Motherland of Mu itself. I became impatient to see them when I learned that the writings were only fragments of a vast collection taken from one of the 7 Rishis, sacred cities of India. The bulk of them was believed to have been lost. Still, there remained this opportunity to see what I might of the ancient fragments of antiquity, lying dust-laden.
What was the name of the guy? Barry R. Levin?
Remember Barry? He was the science fiction.
He had the science school in Santa Monica. They were shot. That was amazing.
Yeah. You know what happened to him, right?
He committed suicide, right?
He did, yeah. Well, his wife had died of cancer. He had no kids.
Yeah.
And the science fiction thing was going down. I don't know. I think he had maybe he had a kid. I don't know.
I feel like maybe he did have kids. I don't know.
Yeah, I think he left his store to his son.
I don't know. Is it still there? I thought they were breaking it up and selling.
No, it's gone. I mean, he left the estate to somebody because there was some great stuff in that store.
Oh my God, the place was amazing. I feel like we brought like some joy to that guy's life. I'm serious.
Are you kidding? He did like a scene with you. It was really fun. Yeah.
That guy like weirdly happy.
No, he was. Maybe he was like, I can now leave the world. I hope so.
I know. I hope so too.
Go about our day.
10 minutes from me, so I live right under Hollywood sign. Yeah, because publishers are not doing reprinting anymore, so it's all goes on ebook. This is non-science fiction.
Did you ever meet Jack?
First edition, inscribed by Van $150.
This is his wife, so...
Yeah, I'm Miss Van Vogt. Option slam.
Oh, really?
Really now.
Currently?
Yeah.
I've got a bunch of slams here.
I like that book. A.E. Van Vogt book.
You would like to look at some A.E. Van Vogt books. Excellent. Which did you say?
The book's autograph.
Yes, it's autographed.
From Van Vogt. I love the book.
Really?
Yes, I like to buy it.
Well, I mean, it's $400 because of the inscription. It also it has some misprints in it that actually drive it up more. I would say 600, but perhaps 500.
Yeah, well, 500, all right.
Oh, really? Isn't that wonderful? Well,
What
are you doing?
I bought the book.
excuse me. I'm sorry. Excuse me. Excuse me.
You bought the book for him? Oh my God.
I don't have any time.
I remember seeing his advertisement in LA papers. It was always standing out like...
I remember seeing the yellow pages in like the New Haven phone book in the yellow pages. He put them in yellow pages all over the country. He put
Oh, yeah.
and I was always like...
So he had amazing stuff. It's just he didn't have a store. It was all online or sort of in newspapers, pre-online.
By appointment or something like that. Because I remember going in that place. I remember being in LA for one of the first times I was in LA, and I was like, oh my God, I could actually go to this place that
you'd seen
yellow
proclaimed,
pages,
yeah.
just being like, wow, there's some place. And I went, and it like totally scared me because it was all those like Orthodox Jews in there, and the wife was very intimidating.
Oh yeah.
And I was immediately intimidated.
Oh yeah.
Like got out of there really fast.
Oh really? I always thought she was so really sweet. I never met her.
Probably was. I just was really like she was very like, what are you looking for? What? And I was really kind of like, nothing. I'm not gonna be able to buy something. I just thought it was gonna be more like a bookstore, but it was a rare bookstore, and it was like kind of thing.
Super rare. Yeah. It was more like a rare book dealer, not even a store. An office.
Yeah. But so then the only other time I've been there again was when I went and did that time. He was amazing, that guy though. God.
Into this in London to one of those bookstores of rare books where it's kind of like an art gallery almost, but they have like first edition P.G. Wodehouses or whatever for £600 or maybe more.
Yeah.
And those places are amazing. The way they're done there, it's really not like a bookstore. It's like you're in this showroom, but they're happy to let you come in and look.
Yeah.
But they're kind of like, is there anything you're interested in? You're like, no, I'm not interested in $10,000 for Ulysses.
They're really intimidated.
Yeah. They are.
I get.
And they're all like 10 really handsome young men, just like, you know, like what are they all? How many buyers of early P.G. Wodehouse books are there?
But they're like you said, they're selling to the world, probably. There was a really amazing science fiction bookstore I found in London that then I could never find again. I think it disappeared. But it had been there for a long time in sort of North London in this weird neighborhood. It was a very weird place with this weird old guy running it, but it was a pretty amazing.
The last time I was in London, right before the COVID, I went to a lot of bookstores, and there were very good ones still there.
There are still good ones.
But it's very sad, like Charing Cross Road, when I at least got to see what it was once like, where there was used bookstores all around, like, you know, single tier.
I mean, even like Foyles is kind of not quite like what it was. I mean,
Right, yeah.
I mean, it's nicer than it was, but it's kind of not. I can remember going.
Yeah.
It was like 9 with my.
Wow.
We went to London, and like it was so beat up and
It must have been amazing, man.
dusty and huge and like weird shit and confusing and like now it's like nice, but it's like it was really crazy when I was a kid. It was a crazy place.
Yeah, imagine when there were only books, you know? Imagine what those places, that's when you saw it. What they must have
there still was.
Yeah.
That whole street was just, but you know, like 4th Avenue in this city, that kind of lower 4th Avenue right below 14th Street and like around the Strand, like that.
Of course, yeah.
There's apparently just solid bookstores.
Oh, yeah.
3 blocks. And it's like, now there's one. There's the Strand.
There's still the one behind the street. Yeah, there's still one there.
Still there, and that's actually a nice little bookstore.
I still got some stuff there last time I went
good.
with you.
That bookstore's actually not bad, but it's like, but that's it.
And now there's some boutique-y ones coming up around there.
Yeah, that's true. There's some of those, but there was a really great occult bookstore out there when I first moved here.
I remember that. Yeah, that was not so long ago. Yeah.
No, it wasn't that long ago.
What was that called? Tibetan or something?
I don't remember what it was called.
That was very good, that story.
Kind of weird.
That was sort of like Bodhi Tree. Did you ever go to the Bodhi Tree in LA?
I used to go to Bodhi Tree all the time. That bookstore,
That was...
That place disappeared. I think that almost broke my heart more than practically any other bookstore.
I'm about to cry right now, actually. It's
place-
like when they cut down the German tree Ermunzel to destroy the Druids. It's just like...
No, that place, I used to just, because it was also open until like midnight or something.
That's right, yeah.
You could just go there. That place was amazing.
It was esoteric, right? You say esoteric bookstore, but it was Los Angeles since I don't know how long. It was esoteric bookstore from before that was a thing. You know, it was the first. And then they had the big main part, which was new books, you know, with all these weird self-published Urania. What other titles can you remember from?
Crazy things. I mean, they had all. It was all. I mean, you could find the weirdest. I mean, there was like tarot stuff and like stuff like. But then there was and all kinds of like crystal stuff. Yeah. Then there was one side of it was all more religious. It was like Hindu, Buddhist, Sufi, and all that kind of stuff. Then the other side was where it was all the like UFOs and crystals.
That's right. Yeah.
It was all the crazy.
Really out there. But they had really legit sci-fi too, I think.
They did.
I think I got something like Olaf Stapleton or something at that time was very hard to find.
Like that. Yeah. Only had a good fiction section. But it was all like...
There was also the sex section. Like, there were always just things like...
Magic and like...
These Hollywood types just hang out there like, hey, what's it?
Magic. And like, but then it was all like Templar stuff and pyramids and...
But then behind it on the lot was this old cottage. It was all used books.
That was amazing. Oh, that was amazing. That part of it was amazing.
And the floors were wooden. It was like real old Hollywood buildings.
And that might have
been... How did that close? I still don't understand how
I don't either. I couldn't believe it.
It was always packed.
I couldn't believe that place closed.
And you'd think the audience is growing for that stuff. I mean, I can understand the used part maybe, but I'm surprised at the new part.
But there were always people in the used part. I don't know why the fuck that place called crazy.
There was that kind of cheesy Earth Cafe. I think that's still there next door, which is actually kind of amazingly delicious.
Yeah. No, it was totally good. And there was
it was so LA.
Like, there was like a weird like Kundalini yoga place right next door to it too. That was like some weird yoga place. But there's been a space of years, even now in LA, that like repeatedly I've had the fucking experience of being like, oh, I'm gonna go to the Bodhi Tree, and I go and it's closed. And I went to Brand Books. Remember Brand Books?
Of course, yeah.
And I was like, all right,
It's gone, right?
I'll go to Bookfellows. Gone.
But they were across the street in Glendale.
They were across the street from each other. But they were
which one? Bookfellows was the best used bookstore of science fiction or pulp crime
ever. I know, it was great.
that I've ever seen in my life. I mean, it was huge.
Either. Nothing was expensive.
No, and it was hardback, paperback, like Doyle. They had
everything and weird.
And you're right, they were really inexpensive. I mean,
really inexpensive. But Brand Books was across the street. Was the big one. I think they're online now. I remember when they closed.
I think so. They always had I mean, that's where they did. I mean, you didn't really need to go, but it was because it was next to the movie theater and In-N-Out Burger and Brand Books. It was all just this experience.
It was such a bummer, though.
In the middle of this Nixonian California.
But it's why I loved Glendale, because
I
loved that Brand.
Me too. I loved that too.
Amazing. But there were a bunch of bookstores along. Like
they had a bathroom in Brand Books, which was always.
Brand Books was great, and that guy was awesome. That old guy who ran it, so classic. And it was.
He would just sort of look and be like, meh.
He was really kind of like. He was just sort of like. He was like, what are you fellas looking for? He was just. He was like Green Acres or something. He was showing.
By the way, I would bring books all the time back, and get.
I brought in
just
books
because why not? It was free. He was really generous.
He was awesome, that guy. But
I actually worked at a library at that time, as you know.
Yeah.
We had once a year we could go and just spend so much money. Sometimes we lost that ability, but we could go once we went to Brand and spent. They didn't even have that many books we could even spend that much money on. But we spent like $1,000 or I don't know. And the guy was just weeping and joy.
Yeah. But I would always buy shit that was like, this is just a weird old edition of like A Tale of Two Cities. I don't even need it, but
exactly. Yeah.
It's really weird. It's like a weird.
But also, I mean, the sci-fi section in there was massive.
It was amazing. But,
I mean, they had so many forgotten books.
Iliad Books is still out there, and Iliad.
Iliad Books is amazing. That's even more beautiful classic than Brand was. Brand was really like working class. It was just like, here's reading books. We have it. You just buy it. Iliad's like gorgeous stuff. I mean, almost.
And it's like, and it's such a great place, and the people are really classic. I got really worried during the pandemic. I wrote it.
Did they move, or are they still there?
They moved. Well, they were in that place that we filmed our little movie.
Oh yeah.
They were in that place.
I lost that.
But they moved to. They moved a while ago.
Okay, I don't think I saw the new one.
Yeah, it looks exactly inside. It's exactly the same. But it's been at this other place, which is a little bit further down from where they were. But I just was worried that they're going to fucking go out of business. I should write
those ones in Pasadena. They all went out of business. Remember those? There was
some great
couple. I don't know if you went. There were a couple of good used bookstores.
2 or 3 out there that were great. Yeah. Sam Johnson's went out of business.
That's right. There were 3. They were all right there. Sam Johnson's House of Fiction, and Cliff's books.
That was heartbreaking. Sam Johnson's went out of business. All those weird guys who ran it, and they had all that like weird fiction. They had all that weird like Arthur, all that stuff.
Well, that's when the used bookstores were almost like we were saying the internet or something. They were a subcultural connection to. You kind of saw there what you should be reading.
Yeah, right. That's right. That's exactly right. That's exactly what those were. That's right. It was all this like, if you liked, you'll like this. But it was
But these were very kind of at these smaller ones. the books that survived, they were all, like we said, Buchan, Highsmith. It's all, the classics, Phil Dick. He was often harder to find at that time because he wasn't always reprinted until more later. But
the classic instance of that to me was when I found that Voyage to Arcturus book at Whitlock's Books.
Exactly.
To me, that's a perfect example of I didn't know what that was. I didn't really know what that book was. I maybe had vaguely heard of it. And I was sort of I'll try this. And it was life changing.
Revolution.
It was just but it was that thing.
Yeah, well, New Haven, we had just this, we had the Co-op bookstore from Yale, which is now Barnes and Nobles, or not that gone. But there's no books anymore. But it was so good for even when we were in college, it was
an amazing bookstore.
I mean, at the time, you were like, this is kind of boring because it just says everything. But if you think back, you're like, holy shit, it literally had everything.
It had everything.
It had mysteries, but it also had the, Pope Johnson.
Totally. It had
scholarship, Marxism, art.
It's weird folio of fucking Christopher Marlowe and shit like that. It was they had everything.
Exactly. Yeah.
They had everything. But the mysteries were really good. The mystery section was great.
Yeah.
In the bookstore. And so was but that's when people ran the bookstores for the idea that people were going to come in here just sort of looking around for
shit. And you and I still do that, basically.
We still do it. We still do it, but I don't know. It's a dying thing. But so much of the shit that we've talked about here, like you just said, we just stumbled on. I mean, it's like that Charles Fort guy. I stumbled on that shit when I was
his books are always in used bookstores.
Always there. But I remember
5, quote, wild men and a, quote, wild girl appeared in Connecticut about the 1st of January, 1888. See the St. Louis Globe Democrat, January 5th, and the New York Times, January 9th, 1888. I have records of 6 persons who between January 14th, 1920 and December 9th, 1923 were found wandering in or near the small town of Romford, Essex, England, unable to tell how they got there or anything else about themselves. There have been mysterious appearances of children in every land in India. The explanation of appearances of children of an unknown past is that they have been brought up by she-wolves. And there have been strange fosterings, young rabbits adopted by cats, and young pigs welcomed to strangely foreign founts.
And I remember the occult and esoteric section at the paperback trader was kind of scary to me because I was what's going to happen to me if I go over there? Yeah. And I see books about Satan and stuff like that.
I remember you had a copy, a really cheesy paperback edition of Necronomicon.
Yeah, the Necronomicon.
That is a fake book, right? At the time, we thought that was so evil that we were I don't know if you were scared to have it in your house, but I was scared. Freaked out that you even owned it. I was just like, Jesus, that's a scary book.
I don't know.
And it was just, then I thought, well, Lovecraft at least probably wrote it. And he didn't even write it.
He wrote it. I don't know who wrote it.
The mad Arab.
It's I wonder who actually wrote that. I wonder if it's on LeVay or one of those guys wrote
I wonder,
something. I wonder who actually.
Maybe actually.
He might have. It might have been somebody like that. But the thing is,
it's so cool, these fictional books.
I can remember being unsure whether it was real or not, and that almost freaked me out more. Because I was did somebody fake this, or is it real? And that almost made me more freaked out.
The conjuration known as the binding of the evil sorcerers. Al-siku nushi ilani mushiti. Itikunu ashi mushitum kalatum kutamtam. Alshi bareritum kabalitum u nabaritum. Ashu kashaptu u kashipani. Dalinitum u birani. Il ia u ishitar ia ushisu u eliia. As another binding of the sorcerers. Salmani ia anapagri takipita dupira. Salmani ia anapagri dakshira dupira. Salmani ia iti pagri tushini ila dupira. Salmani in ishdi pagri tushni ila dupira. Salmani i kimax pagri takbira dupira. Shalmani ia ani kilati takipadi dupira. Shalmani iana ia igari takspa adupira. Shalmani ia ina askopati dushni ila dupira. Shalmani ina bisha durri takspa adupira. Shalmani ia ana gishpar takpita dupira.
You were like, this is the most evil book ever written.
You'll go mad if you read it.
Oh, that's right. You go mad if you read it. I mean, that's so great.
And did you ever see that really cheesy John Carpenter movie, In the Mouth of Madness? Is it a John Carpenter movie? Yes, it is.
I love John Carpenter, though.
It's about that Sam Neill guy plays a guy. He's obsessed with this horror writer who writes this book that will drive you mad if you read it. It's a pretty
okay. I've got to watch that. Yeah,
I haven't seen it in a long time, but I remember it being pretty cheesy. But I remember being freaked out by those things, and that's how. But that's how I found all this, like Charles Fort and the Moo books. They would always have those like Lost Continent of Moo and all of those.
Yeah, I know very well.
Stuff like that, and there's like Ignatius Donnelly Atlantis.
Ignatius Donnelly's Atlantis.
And all, and we were like 10, and it's like we were absorbing that shit. And it was like, and it's just like became like a staple of our lives, like this bedrock. But like you said, it's like all that stuff became this like, it like had to be there. It was like this foundational thing.
Yeah, it really was. I can't explain it, but it was like the internet. I don't know why I'm saying that. I don't know the used bookstore culture. But I think because we always were in a college town, so our parents were professors. So in college towns, you definitely had this international, scene of publishing coming through and students reading all this shit. Because they read. There was nothing else to do, so you had to read.
No, it's true. But it's weird that there's not really very many good. I mean, there is that new good used bookstore in New Haven. That's actually really good.
In New Haven?
That place was good. It's where
that's excellent. It's what's it called again?
I can't remember what it's called either. It's called it's like something about a brain.
Oh, it's called Left Brain Books or something. No, Gray Matter. It's called Gray Matter. And I have to say,
it's good.
There are a lot of new used bookstores, which I appreciate very much. For instance, Math Books in New York, but they're so boutique-y that it gets a little much. Yeah. Even though they're not that expensive, I mean, it's still a good deal. And they give nice plastic and masks.
But
the one in New Haven is really like you're back in the 70s, and it's in the right area and everything of New Haven. And every time I go there, I'm almost sad actually, because the books are so good that are there. I'm like, oh, that's really sad that someone sold this and that I'm buying it.
And I know that nobody cares about this.
Yeah, but I'm still happy to get them. So.
Yeah, I don't know. All this shit's disappearing here. Do you know what's funny is the original Barnes & Noble that used to be down on Fifth Avenue was great. And there was the...
we went there a lot. Yeah.
The used one across the street was great. It was like a great store. It was really like...
No, well, that's why the others closed down.
One of the cool things, though, is that I've been like... Seattle was a great city.
That's right. When you were first went there.
Still has a lot of them and has...
That's right. And Portland has great bookstores.
Yeah, Seattle had amazing ones. Really amazing ones. But the thing that's cool is I do feel like if you go to these small towns, I went to Wyoming like 4 or 5 years ago just for the fuck of it. I was like, I haven't been to Wyoming. I want to go to Wyoming. So I went and I stayed in this little town called Buffalo, which is like north central Wyoming, tiny. I mean, it's not even really much of a town. And it's right near the border with Montana. And I went to this town called Sheridan, which was right nearby. And it's like, it was like the metropolis compared to Buffalo. It was like a bigger town. But it was not, and it was like this kind of old Western town. And there was a fucking used bookstore in this town that was, I swear to God, one of the best used bookstores I've ever been.
Wow.
The woman who owned it had been a hospice nurse. And she was this older woman, and she was this kind of eccentric old lady, and she had dyed purple hair. And she was like really kind of like, and she was like, I was tired of, my job was hard, and it was so sad, and I always wanted to open a bookstore. So she opened this bookstore. And in the front part of the bookstore was shitloads of romance novels, like tons of them. And And she was like, that's basically what I deal in. But the rest of the store was amazing.
It's like drugs here.
It was amazing. She had
The
this
rest?
historical fiction section that was like the coolest fun. I mean, it was like this kind of shit. I was just like, oh my God. She had everything. Everything. It was so fucking cool. In this little town in the middle of nowhere.
I bet there's in small towns.
No, I've been in like.
There's a lot of books out there that have nowhere to go, so hopefully people are collecting them. And
Yeah, you just find these people in these eccentric little places. Rural Virginia, I've been in. I found these amazing little bookstores. There was
and that's where literature still has its old, like, where it connects you to history and different dimensions. And
there were places like that up in Cape Cod last year when I was just like, wow, I'd find these weird little bookstores.
It's very
like,
Semachian.
Almost like somebody's house. Yeah, it was very Semachian, like in somebody's house. So
that might be you something.
At 9 in the morning, the striptease clubs were all closed, and only the delicatessens of his memory were open. The drains ran with fresh water, and the early housewives passed him under the pale hazy sky, carrying bulging sacks of salami and liverwurst with an air of happy triumph. There was not a policeman in sight, though after dark they would be seen walking in pairs. Castle crossed the peaceful street and entered a bookshop he had frequented for several years now. It was an unusually respectable bookshop for this area of Soho, quite unlike the bookshop which faced it across the street and bore the simple sign Books in scarlet letters. The window below the scarlet sign displayed girly magazines which nobody was ever seen to buy. They were like a signal in an easy code long broken. They indicated the nature of private wares and interests inside. But the shop he went into, the shop of Halliday & Son, confronted the scarlet books with a window full of Penguins and Everyman and second-hand copies of world's classics. Gordon eyed them with inert hatred. At that moment he hated all books, and novels most of all. Over to the right were shelves of poetry. Those in front of him were prose, a miscellaneous lot. Upwards and downwards they were graded, from clean and expensive at eye level to cheap and dingy at top and bottom. Down in the bottom shelves, the classics, the extinct monsters of the Victorian age, were quietly rotting. Scott, Carlyle, Meredith, Ruskin, Pater, Stevenson. You could hardly read the names on their broad, dowdy backs. Below those, saleable still and therefore placed within reach, was religious literature, all sects and all creeds lumped indiscriminately together. The World Beyond, by the author of Spirit Hands Have Touched Me, Dean Farrar's Life of Christ, Jesus the First Rotarian, Father Iliad Chestnut's latest book of Roman Catholic propaganda. There were 15 or 20 shelves of poetry. Gordon regarded them sourly. Yeats, Davies, Housman, Thomas, de la Mare, Hardy, Dead Stars. Ping! Shop bell. Gordon turned. Another customer.
I was thinking when I did get rid of a lot of my books in here, that a way to do it was just have people come in here and take books that they want. Because it's fun.
I know. I wish I had been one of those people.
But I didn't end up doing that. But it's like, I'm going to tell Sam when I'm dead, he should just have people go through my books and take them. You know?
Not people. He should have Schlegell.
Dude,
if Schlegel's alive, then other people could.
You don't say it. If you really want these, I will leave these to you. But there's shit.
This is my bookstore right here. I have a little bookstore. It's like my idea is a used bookstore, really small, and the books can be more expensive, a little bit like $20.
Are you selling those?
Really well chosen.
Do you sell those?
I do, but I only bring it out once. Maybe I'm invited to bring it to like a book fair, and
so you don't do it online.
No.
I want to buy.
I could though. I would. I'm willing to do that. I mean,
you wouldn't sell that.
I'm too lazy.
You wouldn't sell me that Portnoy's complaint.
Oh yeah, that's not even for sale. I think so. If it is, it's cheaper.
Is that a Silverberg?
It's really good. Oh, it is for sale.
Is that a Robert Heinlein or is that a Silverberg up on the top?
That's a Heinlein. Waldo and Magic Incorporated. Two of my favorites.
Are you still reading Silverberg, Robert Silverberg?
I'm not at this moment, but I read 3 recently.
They were good.
You know, because I had read this one, Dying Inside, that everyone said was so good. I didn't like it. I thought it was mean-spirited. I didn't know why. And I had never really read him at that when that was reissued maybe 5 years ago or 10 years ago.
I've never read it.
And so that turned me off him again. But then one of his pulpy books just floated by.
I read the one you told me to read. I can't remember what it's called.
Night Wings.
It was
I
great.
thought it was so...
It was great.
What did we say? So not professional, so competent or something. It was so well done as a pulpy science fiction book.
Yeah.
It's hard to... Wait, I haven't...
I think that's awesome that you've gotten into him. That's really cool.
But he wrote so many books. Did you realize that?
So many books.
900.
He wrote like 200 like porn novels or something.
Robert Silverberg. I know that. And the funny thing is, this one I think, Conquerors. I read this one, Conquerors from the Darkness. You know, and it's about.
Copy of it.
You know what it reminded me of, which I'm even ashamed to say that I know them. The gore. It reminded me of Gore a little bit, but without the sex parts. It's like. But very, like, almost, it was a little bit like porn without the porn.
Right.
It was weird. I can't explain it. And then when I found out he wrote it, I was like, oh yeah, but it's good. It's like halfway between that and Jack Vance. It's like.
The Night Wings one was a little bit like porn without the porn. It was a
You're right, it was too. It's like, yeah.
You're still the only person I know who's read a Gore book. I haven't actually read one. I mean,
really? Yeah.
I kind of wish
I read one. Yeah. I liked it a lot. And then
London Times, September 19th, 1848, that at Inverness, Scotland, two large, bright lights that looked like stars had been seen in the sky, sometimes stationary, but occasionally moving at a high velocity. New Zealand Times, March 19th, 1883, it is said that bones of an unknown monster about 40 feet long had been found upon the coast of Queensland and had been taken to Rockhampton, Queensland. Quote, there are the remains of what must have been an enormous snout, 8 feet long, in which the respiratory passages are yet traceable, unquote. These could not have been the remains of a beaked whale. A fire started on the mahogany desk in the center of the office of the Secretary of War at Washington, D.C. Several official papers were destroyed, but it was said that they were of no especial value and could be replaced. Secretary Proctor cannot understand how the fire originated, as he does not smoke and keeps no matches about his desk.